Before we get into this video, I want you to imagine a scenario with me. And Jamie was just invited to a very nice party by his well-off friend. This party is happening on Friday night, so he puts on his nice clothes and he goes to this very high-end restaurant where he walks in and is faced with 50 people he doesn't know. These are strangers. They live very different lives than he does, and they all seem to know each other quite well. So, kind of nervous, Jamie goes to look for his friend. It takes a while for him to find her because there's a lot of people and there's a lot of activity going on. But eventually he does. Jamie and Sarah met a few weeks ago at a bar, and Sarah decided to invite Jamie because she thought he was so charming. But Sarah had something to do. He couldn't stay with Jamie for the entirety of her birthday party. She had a lot of other people to talk to, and she definitely wasn't going to let Jamie just tag along the whole time. So Sarah told him to just go have some fun, enjoy the party, and she left on her own. Now, Jamie is stuck here, kind of in a situation. He doesn't know this entire group of people, and he feels alone. He feels like he has nothing to contribute because these people are so different than he is. See, Jamie is a film student who came from a pretty well off background, but he didn't grow up in the city. He doesn't know what these people like. He doesn't know what these people don't like. He doesn't really understand the culture. But still, it is his job now to connect. So, how does Jamie do this? Well, he has two options. Jamie can either try to fit in or he can try to be himself. Now, I'm sure every single one of you has been in a situation where you've had to choose between these two paths: fitting into your surroundings or being yourself. But Jamie here in this situation, he has something on the line. He has his relationship with Sarah, he can't embarrass himself, but he also has the potential to walk out with many more high value friends in a city where he may not know a lot of people. So, what should Jamie do? Jamie has to be interesting, he has to be charming, and he has to be attractive. But these are all quite subjective things, Jamie thinks, and because he doesn't know the culture, he has no idea how he's going to fulfill these intentions. But what Jamie doesn't know is that every single one of these, and their opposites, boring, unattractive, repulsive, all of these come down to a single factor, and that is human language. Now, on the surface, that might seem quite clear, but as you may see from the title, I want to redefine what you may think human language actually is. My name is Quentin Covington. I've studied neuroscience at Johns Hopkins University and I got my bachelor's degree. So I spent a lot of time learning about the mind and the brain. And one thing that we learn about the brain is that it is really good and really dependent on language. This is one of the major things that separates us from other animals. And it's the reason why we're able to build such amazing things. Now, here's how I want to redefine language for you. When most people think of language, they think of the language they learned in school. There is a dictionary that contains a bunch of definitions. And you, after living in America or whatever other country and speaking this language your whole life, have basically memorized most of this dictionary. And in learning how to speak and write, you learned how to put these words together in the right way, in the right formula, so that you can make meaningful sentences. This is grammar. And in this way, you are participating in human language. You are transmitting meaning through these words or symbol. But this doesn't even scratch the surface. Human language is much more complex and much more interesting than this very basic understanding. Because in reality, all human language happens in the brain, and your brain does not think of language in this simplistic way. Here's how your brain thinks of language. Every single word is a symbol. Let's take the word trust. Now, the dictionary definition will give you a meaning like the quality or ability to rely on a person or thing to fulfill a task. I don't know if this is the actual definition, but it will give you something like this. Let me tell you, when someone hears the word trust and it's processed by their brain, does not go through this process. Their brain does not hear the word trust and think, oh, the quality or ability to rely on a person to fulfill a task. One, that is just way too many words to think at the same time. This word is probably in the middle of a sentence, so you can't access this definition that quickly. And two, every symbol, every word doesn't just have the semantic meaning, it also has an emotional meaning, a historic meaning, and a social meaning. Your definition of trust is much more than what you can find in the dictionary. And every time your brain hears the word trust, it goes through every single one of these definitions very quickly. And much more rarely does it actually rely on this one. And the most important point I want to make in saying this is that every single person has a different definition of trust because of this. Everybody has a different emotional, historic, and social meaning of trust because we've all grown up in different lives. We all have different emotions, histories, and social surroundings. So let's see this in action. We have one person named Sally. Now, Sally has a pretty sad past. She learned not to trust people from a young age. Let's say her parents never let her go outside. Her parents were very strict. She wasn't allowed to have a lot of fun. And every time her parents promised her that she would go on vacation or she would be allowed to go to a party, they would change their mind. They betrayed her trust. So Sally learned not to trust people because she was surrounded by people who she couldn't trust her whole life. Now, let's take another person named John. Now, John grew up in a very honest family. Every time his parents asked him to do something, he would do it. And every time he asked his parents to do something, they would do it or give him a reason for why they couldn't. He had a strong relationship with his parents. Promises were always kept, and if for some reason someone couldn't fulfill their promise, they acknowledged it and apologized. It was very genuine. See, for John, because he was surrounded by these kind of people his whole life, he learned to trust. He learned that it was okay to trust other people because usually it resulted in positive, stronger relationships. And as we saw for Sarah, she learned the opposite. When she trusted people, she felt lied to and betrayed. Now, let's say you are friends with both Sally and John, and you want them to do something kind of risky. You guys are about to go on a train without buying a ticket. And because you've done this before, you know that they're not going to check the ticket and there's no point in buying one. Now, you are trying to convince Sally and John, who are kind of hesitant because they've never been on this train before, and they're both standing there, listening to you explain. And after a while, you simply say, guys, I've done this before. Just trust me. Now, when you say this, Sally's and John's brains are reacting to this in two completely different and opposite ways. John's brain is thinking, oh, my friend who I've known for a long time, he's asking me to trust him. He must know what he's doing. I will go along with this. So this phrase boosts his confidence in you. Sally, on the other hand, was told trust me, and all 100 times her trust was betrayed. So when you say just trust me, now all of a sudden Sally's brain goes, do not trust this person. He is going to betray you. And her confidence goes down. Even though they have the same definition of trust, Sally and John have different histories relating to this concept, this word. They have different emotional connections, and they have a different social context for which this word was used. And all three of these are playing into their reaction to the word trust, or your phrase, trust me. Now, trust is a very obvious word for which this works, but this applies to every single word in the human language, from basic things like apple, to cars, to microphones, and to complex things like love, relationship, friends. Even though in the dictionary, these all have very standard definitions, and we can kind of agree generally what they mean, every single person has a different overall definition for all of these words based on their history, emotions, and social context. So let's go back to our friend Jamie. This is why Jamie feels stuck. Jamie is a film student, so he knows how to talk about movies. He knows how to talk about production. He even knows how to talk about drama. But here he is in this room full of strangers who he knows nothing about, and he doesn't know what they think about movies. For him, movies are a form of art packed with emotions and artistic technique. Amy could go on for hours talking about his favorite films and what they mean to him. They may mean completely different things to the people he's surrounded with. They might not really care about movies, or they just might watch them casually. So if he walks up to them and just immediately starts talking about how great movies are, they will not be able to form a real connection with him. Same thing with production. Most of these people probably have no experience with producing movies. And on the other hand, even the things that they do have experience with, like drama, Jamie might have lived through drama and he might have a definition of drama from his circle, his friends, but that definition of drama might be completely different than the 50 other people whose he's around, who have completely different lives and social contexts than he does. So Jamie is unsure of what to talk about. This is how he feels. Jamie does not feel confident. He feels anxious. He feels confused. He's kind of scared. What if he messes up? What if he embarrasses himself and Sarah? And what if he walks out here completely alone? So let's help our friend Jamie out. How can he use this new definition and understanding of language to accomplish what he wants to accomplish and to eliminate all of these restricting emotions? Well, let's go back to what I said about why language is so important in the first place. Language allows connection. Now, you can't see inside of another person's brain and tell what they're thinking. Much less can you look into another person's brain and see what their definition of drama or movies or production is. The only way you can access these are through language, by having a conversation. See, we often walk into a conversation expecting that everybody has the same definitions that we do. And we talk about the things we enjoy talking about with this assumption, and that leads to disconnection. The person you're talking to feels lost, confused, and sadly disinterested. They don't feel like they're able to contribute because they have such different definitions than you do. And they might not even be able to consciously express that. They can definitely feel it in a conversation. So, how can you overcome this disconnection and use language to fulfill its purpose of connecting? Well, the very simple key is to just get curious, get interested in what other people's definitions are. Now, Jamie has a wide range of movie knowledge he can pull on. And movies, as we all know, are very interesting, or else why would we watch them? So Jamie decides, I will talk about movies, because I know movies. I can talk about movies all day long. If I just start walking up to someone and tell them about all the movies I know, they are quickly going to move on. They will not be interested in the conversation. But if you want someone to be interested in your conversation, you have to make it a conversation. And a conversation is simply the exchange of these ideas. So we have Jamie and a stranger. He walks up to a random guy at the bar who's sitting by himself. He's drinking champagne and he looks kind of lonely. Maybe he just went through a breakup, or maybe his friends are excluding him. Either way, Jamie decides that he is going to go talk to this guy about movies, because that's what he can do. As we said, what Jamie wants to avoid is this. Jamie just telling this guy about movies, what they mean to him, how interesting movies are. This stranger is going to ignore him. Maybe he's not even in a good mood yet. Jamie also doesn't want this. He doesn't want to just sit there and hear about the guy's problems. That sounds tiring and also uninteresting to Jamie. What Jamie and the stranger need to form a connection is this: back and forth, sharing ideas, and exchanging these definitions that we talked about earlier. Maybe they're going to talk about movies. Jamie might ask, what is your favorite movie? And the guy might respond, oh, my favorite movie is this. And then Jamie can ask, why? Now they are talking about movies. This guy might not be a movie connoisseur, but he might really like a movie because it resonated with his past. He could see himself in the character, or the father of the main character was just like his, and he appreciated seeing someone going through the same situation. Now, Jamie, pulling from his wide range of movie knowledge, can think of all of the movies he knows where he experienced the same thing. "Oh, that's why I like this movie." Or, "I studied that movie, and the director actually went through this experience." Now, they are talking about their emotional definitions of movies. They are not talking about the dictionary definition because that is uninteresting, especially to your brain. Now they are talking about emotion. This is one of the ways of being interesting and forming the connection. The exchanging of this idea, the exchanging of this definition in this brain based context, emotion. Now, they could also talk about something social. When was the last time you went to go see a movie with your friends? Did you like that movie? What did your friends think? Did you agree with them? We just had a party at my apartment to watch this very old film. I didn't like it, but my friends were so into it because they're old film nerds. Now you guys are exchanging the social aspect. And you can exchange the historical aspect. Which movies have you already seen? Maybe you guys share some in common. You guys may have watched the same movies and have some differing opinions, or maybe you guys want to watch the same movies in the future. By exchanging your real definition of movies, not the one that exists in the dictionary, you form the real connection with a complete stranger. And you can do this with any topic. You can do this about trust. You can do this about love. You can do this about apples. Really, you can do this about anything. But the key is you need to have these definitions in your mind and you need to be able to express them. And the other person needs to be willing to do the same. This is the nature of language. It's not to just give meaning through dictionary definitions of words that are arranged in a grammatically correct order. The real purpose of language is this emotional, social, and historical exchange of ideas. And if you walk into any setting, if you talk to any person, and you use this definition to have a conversation, you will be interesting. You will be confident because you know these things very well. You know your emotional, social, and historical definitions of different concepts, and you will form a real connection with whomever you are talking to. So, next time you get the opportunity to talk to someone, keep something in your mind. Pick a topic: movies, sports, games. Maybe it's something deeper that you guys will have in common. I don't know, let's say anthropology or computer science or even money. It all depends on the setting. It all depends who you're talking to and what your expertise is. But whatever you do, it's all about these. Try this out, see how it goes, and I promise you, whoever you're talking to will be very interested in what you're saying, and you will have a lot of fun in this conversation. And beyond that, you guys will form a real connection that can last. There will be no more times where you walk into a party and you're sitting in the corner scrolling on your phone, opening the weather's app or whatever else you're doing, and standing there nervously. There's no reason to do that now because all you need to do is follow this formula. Pick something you're interested in and ask people about their definition and share your own. That's how human language is supposed to be used. On my last video, I talked about the nature of perception versus interpretation. And that is a very similar and relevant topic to the one we just talked about. Because even though we may hear the same word, everyone is going to interpret the sound that came out of your mouth very differently. So, perception and interpretation are two independent but highly interlinked concepts that happen in your brain. And it's best that you understand how they work because this is how you interact with your reality. So, if you haven't seen that video, go watch that one. And in the future, I will be making more videos not only about communication and the nature of perception and interpretation, but I will help to redefine things like learning as well, relationships, and more. These are all topics that have the potential to completely change how you interact with the world once you understand them at this deep fundamental level that I was explaining today. So follow me for these kind of videos. So follow me if you want to know more about how your brain and mind works and how you can apply this knowledge to your everyday life. And thank you for watching to the end of this video. Share this with someone who you think needs to communicate better. So, thanks again. I'll see you guys again next time.